Well, starting this week, a new radio station is hitting the airwaves of the nation's capital. The Sputnik outlet is launching its own broadcast at 105.5 FM in Washington, D.C. It promises to host talk shows with entirely different opinions, focusing on issues and details often omitted by the mainstream media. RT's Alexey Yaroshevsky reports from the station's opening event.
You probably have heard this name if you followed the Senate hearings on Russia, but now not only you'll be able to read the Sputnik, you will also be able to listen to the Sputnik. Starting this week, 105.5 FM in Washington, D.C., Sputnik will be launching a fully fledged radio station, 24/7, broadcasting different opinions and different talk shows on politics and everything related. And despite some may say a somewhat negative press that the outlet has been receiving lately, that is something that the management of Sputnik believes can actually help the outlet to win the audience.
There's so much hearsay about Sputnik that I hope it will make people at least curious, that they would want to tune in. The fact is that most of what they heard about us probably isn't true. Our guys are talking about things that are not being covered by the mainstream media, and even when they talk about the topics that are being covered, they clearly have a very different perspective, the perspective that often is missing from the mainstream coverage.
But how do you win audience in such a difficult time? Well, the management of Sputnik thinks it knows the answer, particularly by getting different opinions on its airwaves. Now, one of the shows which will be broadcasted on its airwaves at 105.5 FM in Washington, D.C. is called The Fault Lines. It's hosted by a staunch progressive, a Bernie supporter, and a Trump supporter and investigative journalist.
One thing I think people are surprised at, who listen to the show, are surprised at how often that we agree, that we do agree on some common themes, because we're both populist kind of people, we're both kind of anti-establishment people, so we tend to agree. But we have fun too. We're very good friends, but we have a lot of fun, and we don't mind, voicing our opposing views. What's important is that people who are watching the show know the truth. So we recommend that people look into it for themselves, do all their own research, and then we give them our point of view, and we walk away, and people can do what they want with it.
And I really think that the establishment media in the United States doesn't want people to know how much people agree. Because if people agree, when Garland and I talk about health care, for instance, we're both like, yeah, well, the pharmaceutical companies are not good, are not good. And I think a lot of Trump supporters feel that way. They're very concerned about the big insurance companies. And I think a lot of Bernie supporters are, but the problem is in establishment media, who's buying the commercial time? And the answer is the big pharmaceutical companies.
Those running Sputnik FM do not believe that the United States is a divided country. It's just that the people are not able to sit down and talk about things. And this is something that the radio station will be looking to do, since telling the untold has been its main principle since the very inception. Alexey Yaroshevsky, RT, reporting from Washington, D.C.